Name's Ken Kratz, and joining me today, I've got Alex Reinking, and you also heard Jennifer Longley in the background there. We're going to be doing today's webinar, and kind of focused on, as you can see on the screen here, just really kind of talking about artificial intelligence, its impact on security today, and where do we see it going into the future. And so we're going to just talk a little bit about what's going on in this industry today and try to maybe demystify a little bit of the terminology that we're all kind of hearing every single day. So with that, I'll go ahead and advance my screen. So, when I think about artificial intelligence, there's a lot of buzzwords, that are out, abounding today out in the industry, talking about the future of technology. The global artificial intelligence race, if you will, has spilled over into private industry, in popular culture, sparking a lot of different questions that we have today, and some concerns about what the future of a world with intelligent machines might look like. I think of artificial intelligence as one of those mega trends that we hear about often in the news feeds today. Developments that are sustained developments that are fundamentally changing and impacting business, the economy, society, cultures, and our personal lives. And really, artificial intelligence is a lot of those different things. So, these days, nearly everyone is talking about artificial intelligence. It's an exponentially expanding area of, of technology that promises to bring paradigm shifting changes to the way we live, work, and play. It's a big statement, right? And again, that's why we kind of think of this as a mega trend. But it's really often described as machine intelligence rather than natural intelligence. Natural intelligence is that of humans and animals. So, let's not let the futuristic terminology fool us. Machine learning, it's already here. Many of us interact with this type of technology every single day through Siri, Alexa, our smart thermostats, all of our IoT, devices that we have. Spotify, creating new playlists for us based upon what we've listened to in the past. These are just all examples of how machines are learning and then providing artificial intelligence to us as the audience. So what is artificial intelligence? And, maybe some more examples here. So, when we think about artificial intelligence, what it's really kind of leading to in a lot of cases is autonomous systems. So sometimes you hear those two terms kind of interchangeably. But if you think about AI enabled robots, right, that are performing more and more increasingly difficult tasks. We've probably all seen them, robots dancing and jumping rope and doing things. But, as these devices, become more and more ability to have this, kind of as an autonomous system, you take into account its ability to learn. And that's where you end up with robots that can perform very difficult tasks. They can do very simple things, and they can also, in the future, they might even help surgeons, perform surgeries and things of that nature. We're all hearing a lot about the self-driving cars and what Google and others are doing in that area. The idea here is that it'll free up drivers from the monotony of driving, as well as reduce traffic fatalities, because they have they don't get distracted the way humans typically would. We also hear a lot about big data and analytics, using AI type algorithms to improve. Again, if you think about all different aspects of our lives, from our social services. Obviously, we're focusing on business and security operations, but in healthcare, criminal justice, the environment, it really doesn't end. It's impacting our lives in a number of different ways. In a recent news poll that I was reading about potential, security and industry trends, the majority of the responses pointed to the increased role of artificial intelligence in security as one of the leading technology trends, particularly in the case of deep learning algorithms in the video surveillance market, which is, kind of, right smack in the middle of where we all play. The buzz around using artificial intelligence in the physical security applications is nothing new to most of us that have been involved in this industry for a while. It's just a new way of accomplishing within our industry what we have been already doing for many years, looking at massive amounts of data, et cetera. We've seen demonstrations, we've heard things about, what's coming in the future, but, the future is here. There again, we're starting to see benefits in our personal lives. We're seeing all kinds of improved processes. I was reading an article where Jeff Bezos felt as though, of Amazon, he made a comment that he felt like artificial intelligence will improve nearly every business process that we have today in ways that we haven't even imagined yet. So again, it's beginning. It's been around for actually over 70 years. The term was first coined in the 50s, but it's been around a long time. So there's a lot of reasons why it hasn't really taken on to the mainstream. And a lot of that has to do with, again, it's not a new concept, but since the birth of big data and our ability, with companies like Facebook and Google, but it really wasn't until we had the advances that we've seen in our computer processing speeds, the big server farms, the cloud-based systems, and the ability for us to take data collection to a completely new realm. Because if you think about it, in the past, when I started my career in technology, it was all about trying to figure out how to minimize the amount of storage and memory and things that we had. Those are rather ubiquitous today. I just got a new phone that's got 256 gigabytes of storage on it. My first computer had a 10 meg hard drive. So, as the technology continues to advance, processing speeds keep getting faster. It's these new architectures that are allowing these learning processes, and the computing horsepower are really now enabling us to fulfill this potential of AI. And obviously, it's just going to get stronger and stronger over time as we continue to develop stronger and more powerful systems and more intelligent algorithms. So let's talk a little bit more specifically about what's going on in the security industry. And you can see here, the security guards alone, cannot guarantee complete security. Today, if you've got, one or more security guards sitting in front of a bunch of monitors, they're going to get distracted. It's a successful approach, but again, it can't guarantee the security. Some people talk about eliminating the human factor. That's really not our position. We really look at it more of that we're really wanting to kind of take away from some of the faults, if you will, of human intelligence, which we can become distracted. Sometimes it's hard for us to stay focused for a long period of time, focusing on several different things at once, looking, at a bunch of different monitors. It's really easy, and for an incident to occur and not be and go unnoticed, just simply because of the sheer volumes of data and the distractions that the humans have. So as we look at how do we, integrate this intelligence into the systems that we're using today, it helps to devoid these systems of the human error, ultimately making all of our sites safer. So if we think about, when, if a security officer, may not notice a person trying to enter a poorly lit building, a camera equipped with an intelligent video analysis system can trigger a flash like you see on the screen here to draw their attention to that particular screen, to a particular spot on that screen. This will allow them allows the system to do a lot of the work, if you will, of looking at all of the images, but they don't have a miss. They do this without being distracted for even a moment of time. So it really helps to keep every area, that we're entrusted, to keep safe under its supervision. So there's other terms that, that I mentioned earlier. We've also talked about, deep learning is another area. It's really a subset of machine learning, which really, again, it just allows us to learn things because we now have the ability to not only capture massive amounts of data, but we've got the processing power now available to us today so that we can run algorithms against that data And the systems get smarter and smarter and smarter over time. These models that are built inside of AI, the more data they get, the more the models can be refined. So when you look at, getting improvements across, various different types of operations using artificial intelligence, there's an immediate impact that they have, but over time they get smarter and smarter and smarter. And that's where you can see things like, lowering false alerts, can get well over 90%. And if you think about how much time we spend a day looking at information versus responding to it, this allows us to respond very quickly on those cases where it requires us to be involved. So the same types of machine learning techniques that are used to tell the difference today, between, say, the movement of a tree's leaves, versus an intruder, they're now looking where they can look at different types of vehicles that are entering a building. We can look at license plate detections, PTE equipment, which is kind of been a lot in the news here as of late with the COVID and everything. Facial recognition, other security measures, so that people don't necessarily need to type in a code or find that pass card. It can look at their face, just like, again, we're doing today with our phones using facial recognition technology. And what it will allow us to do now is to bring in additional data that will allow us to begin to correlate not just, say, the video analytics, but bring in weather data, bring in time of day data. And again, these systems get smarter. Like, for example, in some cases, headlights can in the evening can bring a false positive. But over time, the systems will learn that in the evenings between these hours and these hours, you're going to see these headlights. Here's their characteristics, and it will quit flagging those. So again, it's not just the data that we're collecting, but then ultimately being able to bring this data together with other data outside. So how will that affect us, in the future? And what are we doing today as an industry as we look at adopting artificial intelligence? So, we have videos, right, that we can now analyze more of not just what we're capturing, but we can actually analyze that. We can look for behavioral patterns. We can now alert personnel to real threats. Again, give them the highlighted ones so that they know. If you think about anomaly detection, it's really, I think that graphic, that picture that we have here really does describe it, right? It's never just a single point. It's multiple points, but all of a sudden one becomes an outlier. It is too far out of the norm. So we can detect those activities, which allow us to respond appropriately. Instead of spending our time looking at all, in that case, all of the other yellow dots, we focus on the one that has been identified as an anomaly. Where will it go in the future? We're saying, what kind of activities are people doing? Interpreting different types of movements and then responding accordingly. Think of a world in the future where, I may have, a device that detects, say, a heat signal, and then all of a sudden that gives me the coordinates, and then I've got an unmanned drone that can then fly out and get high 1080p say resolution video of that particular area to get more details about what's going on. So again, lots of different technologies that we see today. Some of it sounds a little mystical and magical, but all of these things are really very practical applications to what we're doing today. Instead of telling someone to go dispatch and go drive out to that corner of the yard or the field or wherever we need to be and go take a look at what's going on, we can do that much faster, and we can respond much, much more quickly in the future as well. Another area that we look at is, and again, as we look at predictive intelligence, right? So, I think of what we've been talking about so far is when things are happening, being able to analyze that data very quickly. But again, as we start bringing in other data and looking at other highlight, like risk-related kind of activities, we can correlate this data together, and then we can start to get predictive intelligence. It might tell us that on certain evenings, certain weather conditions, certain cases, we've got more threats that we need to be aware of. So, maybe we increase manpower on certain evenings or whatever the case might be. But again, it's really just being able to take all of this large amounts of data, putting it into a place where we can then not only look at it real time, but also post-process, do analysis on it to try to get an idea of how we can be more predictive in terms of our responses as well. So in the end, as I see that it is really, how is this impacting our industry? I see that the use of artificial intelligence will make both physical and virtual spaces much safer. And they will constantly be increasing the efficiency and adapting to changing conditions. So the graphic here that I'm showing on the screen really tries to highlight the fact that humans, plus the ability to analyze and pull valuable information out of, if you will, the noise of all of the data, is what then really leads to increased cost savings and operational efficiencies in security and in all walks of life where this is applied. I think like I said, our position is it's the combination of the two. I don't see artificial intelligence, and this is just me personally, replacing the need for human beings. I think what it does is it reduces the need for human beings and allows them to be applied in the areas where we need that human intelligence or natural intelligence factor. So I'm going to turn it over to Alex here and have him talk a little bit more specifically about what 2020 Solutions is doing. But I wanted to kind of stop here for just a second, because this is a graphic we use in a lot of our discussions with people. And what struck me and why I picked this one is because if you look at the very center of it, it's all about innovation. At 2020, we're looking for new and innovative ways to bring solutions to the marketplace. And we recognize that things like data marts, being able to not just capture the data, but store it in a way that it becomes harvestable, so that it allows us to do that instantaneous analysis on it, as well as that longer term business intelligence, that predictive analytics. So when I think about our solutions, that's really the core of what we're building our solutions around. So with that, Alex, if you don't mind, I'll turn the mic over to you, and then I'll rejoin when you're finished.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ken. Yeah, my name's Alex Reinking, and today I'd like to talk to you all about how we're using AI-enabled technology here at 2020. So we're using a full suite of AI-enabled video analytics and automation to provide increased accuracy, improved efficiency, and detailed insight. And on this next slide here, I'm going to talk to you all about how we first implemented AI through object recognition, image classification, and false positive reduction. So as Ken mentioned, anybody who's ever looked at a camera with motion detection has noticed how often false events can occur. So whether that's a tree branch moving in the wind, rain or snow falling, it could be a small animal walking through the frame, or headlights in the background. There's plenty of instances where motion occurring is not necessarily, a cause for concern from a security standpoint. And so being able to recognize motion and identify it as either a vehicle or a human allows us to take more specific action when and where it's needed. As you can see on the left side here, that with no object recognition, we have about 10 events. And then over the same time period on the right side, there were only 2 events flagged as human or vehicles entering the frame of view. And so since implementing this image classification function, our man monitoring center has seen a reduction of over 90% of these false events. And so this means they're spending 90% less time filtering through false events, and they're able to use that time to focus solely on motion events that are actually posing threats. And so this has obviously helped us greatly improve our efficiency and our response times to critical safety and security events. And the next way we've implemented AI is through our license plate recognition software. And so we have the capability to detect vehicle license plates as they're entering and exiting locations. And we can enter a data set of license plates, so the software can recognize vehicles as unauthorized, authorized, or unknown. So this will help protect your location and allow you to see who's coming in and out and at what times. And it can also help to reduce the amount of time reviewing footage and events, in the event you're looking for a vehicle that came onto location and took some materials or equipment. It'll help you, greatly reduce how many hours you spend looking through footage as you're trying to hunt down that vehicle that was on your location. And you'll even be able to, filter it, I only want to see the vehicles that we don't have the license plates for. Just show me those vehicles that came onto location over this time period. And so it'll give you, it'll be a great tool to help you reduce the amount of noise you're looking through, basically. We're also planning to use LPR to automate access controls. So when an authorized vehicle, shows up to a gate entrance, the gate will automatically open. And so this LPR technology is allowing us to, gather a lot of data, on what vehicles are entering your locations over what periods of times, and just give you the knowledge when somebody who is not authorized decides to enter your location. And so where does 2020 Solutions plan to go with the assistance of artificial intelligence? We're currently in the process of collecting data to enable our AI to recognize specific types of vehicles entering a location and classify those vehicles. So this could be motorcycles, half-ton trucks, dump trucks, trailers, in-dumps, you name it. And once the AI, has enough data collected to recognize these different types of vehicles, we'll be able to easily gather that data to show how many of each type of vehicle have entered a location over a given time period. And this will help with, inventory management. It can work to improve outdated ticketing systems, and it can also, enable data collection of vehicle types coming onto locations. So AI is well on its way, to giving you any kind of data you could imagine capturing with a camera. Another place we're planning to go with AI in the near future is with PPE detection. A lot of the industries we're in, safety is the #1 priority. And so we're currently in the process of gathering this data as well, but soon we'll be able to have the camera and the technology recognize when somebody's wearing, protective vests, eyewear, gloves, face masks, and hard hats. And obviously the biggest benefit to this is that you can ensure your employees are remaining safe. Even if there's not necessarily supervision on site, you can have the peace of mind that everybody there will be wearing the proper PPE. And so on this next slide here is an example of how it'll work. You can see the blue rectangle around the guy in the middle with the orange safety vest. It recognizes the safety vest, but it still flags him here as red because it notices he's not wearing a hard hat. So this technology is just going to allow you to easily monitor and ensure proper safety measurements are taken on your locations. Obviously employees don't want to be watched while they're working. But with this capability, there's not really a need to watch, employees on location, but, they will be flagged if they're not wearing the proper PPE. And, at the end of the day, getting home safely is everybody's number one goal. So we think this could be, a very powerful technology that we're implementing. So long story short here, we're using cameras with the assistance of AI to automatically collect a variety of data at your locations that can provide a variety of benefits, essentially. And this will include, reducing safety events, tracking assets, and just overall enhancing your security. So this is our current plan where we're taking AI and where we think we could capture, useful data. But we're also all ears if you guys have any other ideas as to what type of data could be collected at your sites that would be beneficial to you. My contact information is listed here, and I encourage you to reach out to me with any questions or comments. And with that, I'll hand it over to Ken for some closing remarks.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. Yeah, again, everybody is at a different place, and everybody has a different target where they're trying to get to. And to kind of emphasize what Alex was mentioning there, we've got ideas. We've talked to a lot of people. We've gotten some feedback as to areas that they would like to see us move forward in. But please, reach out to Alex. Let's have that conversation about where you're at. Maybe where you'd like to get to. If there are things that you're thinking about that we didn't discuss here today, we'd sure like to have those conversations. Again, we'd like to get, Alex would like to get an understanding of, who's out there and who wants to, kind of, if you will, join the party, and then work with us to continue to build out these algorithms, these models, collect the data, and make this, become smarter and smarter each and every day. So with that concludes our presentation. I think, Jennifer, if I'm not mistaken, if there are any questions that we'd be happy to answer any questions that may come up.
Yeah, we actually, if anybody has any questions, you can post them right down in the Q&A section. We do have a couple questions, Ken, that came in that I thought I'd pose to you guys while we give people time to add any of their questions. One of the questions is, what about, you had mentioned facial recognition a little bit earlier. What about that, and how are you seeing that used in security today? And is that something that 2020 is working on?
I'll take this one if you don't mind, Alex. Yes, that is something that we're working on. Again, there's always concern when you're doing facial recognition. Where we see this as becoming a little bit more ubiquitous, if you will, is in places like, for example, maybe, I am a truck driver who visits a specific site, 3 times a week, and I've got another site, and each one of these has different, key code access cards, if you will. If I could just drive up and just, put my pretty mug in front of a camera and it could recognize and validate that I am and open the gate for me. Those are the kind of areas where we see, just, from a convenience factor, as well as a more secure way. I mean, it's somebody, when you do facial recognition, somebody can't, if you will, buddy punch. They can't take somebody's card and try to fake people out that they're you. So I see facial recognition as a component going forward. I think that's one where there will always be concerns that people might have. But again, it's really not tracking, faces as much as it is detail, mathematical information about, someone's facial recognition, which, is really just used internally by machines and not by humans.
Great, thank you. We just had another question that was posted that says, are you operating in the US only, or would you be open to considering branching out into the UK?
Well, since my actual role is channel partners and markets, absolutely, I'm interested in branching out to the UK. We have been primarily focused in the U.S. We do have some operations outside of the U.S., but actually this year is we're gearing up for a big expansion into our both the domestic North American markets. And then in Q4 of this year, we're looking to expand very quickly into the European markets. But if there's something that's interesting in Europe today, I'm interested in talking today.
Great. And then there's one more question here. What if we don't currently use security guards on staff to monitor the alerts? How does the AI help my team at that point if I don't have that human interaction with it?
Well, that would be what I would consider more of a push technology. So when we do detect that, how can we alert that individual? I don't think we are there yet, but I can see that sending out, a text message or an email or something of that nature to certain individuals. But you're correct. I mean, if I put a box around, a screen and there's, that says this is red, this is a problem, but if there's nobody there to see it, doesn't do them much good. So, we've got to be able to alert people about what we're seeing, at least from the positives that we're getting through the AI.
Right.
So I'm not sure if that addresses the question or not. Hopefully it did.
I think it's a good start. Yeah. So, and that's all the questions we have, unless anybody else wants to raise their hand and ask a question. That will wrap it up. Okay.
Well, again, thank you, Alex. Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you everyone for attending. We look forward to having some more specific conversations about what your needs are. And Alex is the right person to talk to. He works with our installed base every single day. He's helping companies take where they're at and to move forward in a way that makes sense for their business, and to kind of stay out in front. The way I look at this is that AI is even though it's been around a long time, again, since we're now getting this ability to collect and analyze all of this data, it's going to become a bigger and bigger component. What I look at is, is now, and this is a question that I think we should all ask ourselves, is now the right time to start building that foundation so that as I think about where do I want to be in 3 to 5 years, am I getting the information and collecting the data that I need today so that I can be where I want to be? Because it is about collecting that data and correlating that data and building those models. So, again, in my mind, it's a trend that is not going away. And I think it's going to be continuing to gain momentum. Very quickly. I think I saw an article where the total spend on AI and the investment that is being put into AI is predicted to grow at over 40% year over year for the next decade. So I think we're going to see a lot of this in the news. And again, our goal here was let's kind of demystify it and talk about what does it really mean to us today? What can we use today? And what's coming up in the near future? And how do I prepare myself and my company to take advantage of these technologies as they become available? So again, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.